for decades, Ghana and Nigeria have shared more than just jollof rivalry. We've shared migration, music, trade, and of course, there's also tension as well. But a recent SBM intelligence report is reigniting debate over just how welcome Nigerians truly are in Ghana and how that perception is being shaped not just by government policy, but by social media, history, and economic stress. Add in some highly charged rhetoric, a few viral posts, and you have the perfect cocktail of misinformation, xenophobia, and fear on both sides of the border.
So this morning on our Extra Special, we go beyond the headlines to unpack what's really fueling the strain between Ghana and Nigeria. With us, we have two very interesting voices joining us from Ghana itself. We are being joined by Dr. Mohammed Sulaiman, founding director of the Center for Alternative Politics and Security in West Africa. And also joining us, we will be expecting Mr. Obed Owosu, who will be joining us. But Mr. Isaac Agay, an analyst with SBM Intelligence, is also joining us to analyze or talk about a recent report from SBM Intelligence. Gentlemen, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now,
good morning.
Isaac, let me start with you. The SBM report has made waves across the region. Can you please walk us through what was reported on that, especially regarding the economics between Nigeria and Ghana?
You put it right there. Ghana and Nigeria, we have a lot in common. And if you look at bilateral trade between the two countries, if you add both formal and informal, we're talking about more than $800 million. And if you look at Ghana's trade report, there is no country in West Africa that beats Nigeria when it comes to bilateral trade. And so, I mean, we've had relationships and it's been long. And just like you said, it's been a cocktail of factors. Although we are talking about huge bilateral numbers, there are also tensions around migration issues and what have you. And so, simply put, I mean, it's a cocktail of factors, but in the economic terms, and Nigeria is one country that Ghana cannot go without, especially if you look at the energy sector, where the West African gas pipeline, for instance, has been, I mean, a massive and a major transporting line for fuel in Ghana, both for reverse flow and then also if you look at the importation of crude and oil from Nigeria. And so we depend on Nigeria for so many things, so does Nigeria also depend on Ghana. And just like I said, bilateral trade, we started somewhere around $400 million when you talk about both formal and informal. Now we are talking about close to about $1 billion US.
So, Dr. Mohammed, to you next. What exactly is fueling this dispute between Nigeria and Ghana now? It's not jollof rice anymore. It's much more serious. It would seem that it has to do something with heritage or influence at this point. But what's your take, Dr. Mohammed?
Well, thank you very much. I think the discussion ignores a number of factors. I mean, for us to have a very comprehensive discussion on this subject matter, I think we need to bring, a lot of nuances to the fore. First, I think that the whole Ghana must go, Nigeria must go, protest to a significant extent is exaggerated to some extent. I'm not saying that we shouldn't take it as significant. We should definitely, but I believe that the actual situation on the ground against the responses that we are receiving, it's disproportionate. There's a lot of fake news going out. And SMB's report makes that very clear. And so our challenge now is to de-escalate, and it will be difficult to do so with the presence of social media. It is also important for us to, as Mr. Ajay mentioned, that the relationship between Ghana and Nigeria is like that of nagging couples who love themselves so much that they sometimes hate each other. That relationship is not going to go. It's not going to go away. It's going to be there. Ghana and Nigeria will always be friends, even if we fight every now and then and fight in quotation marks. So that it should also be made clear. Now, the other thing is exactly as Ajay said again, that Nigeria cannot be taken out of Ghana. They are contributing so much to Ghana's economy. And I think it will be very difficult for any government at all, and of course the Ghanaian government to say Nigerians leave. I mean, that means Zenith Bank has to leave, that means UBA has to leave, that means Access Bank has to leave, and that is not going to happen. But it is important to note that the Ghana Must Go protest is about a particular segment of the Nigerian diaspora in Ghana. For many people, if you ask about 10 Ghanaians who believe in this unfortunate Ghana Must Go project, about 8 of them will say, will take Nigeria to be synonymous with Igbos. They target a particular segment of Nigerians in Ghana. And I think we need to take these nuances into consideration if we want to have a more sustainable and comprehensive solutions to what is happening.
As we talk about, sustainable solution, earlier when myself and Brazina was having a conversation about this, so we're talking about, and I brought to fore about ECOWAS and AU, there's bodies who can help, engage with these kind of intra-African hostilities with the countries. What do you think they should do, given how given the political and security implications that tensions like this will arise, especially during the election cycle? Let me start with you, Mohammed, and then you can take it from there, Isaac.
Great. I think ECOWAS has a lot to do in these instances. I mean, West Africa is one of the most open sub-regions in the African continent, and other regions in the continent actually wish to emulate what is happening in ECOWAS. There's free movement of people and goods and services across the sub-region. And Ghana and Nigeria are the two top economies, biggest economies, largest economies in the sub-region. So for there to be something between these two countries will have ramifications, obviously. And given what is already happening in the sub-region, I think ECOWAS has to act. And the ECOWAS protocols, the treaty, Lagos Treaty of 1975, provides a lot of, which was strengthened in 1993. They provide a lot of, indicators, the pillars to use to address issues like this. But as far as I'm concerned, I think ECOWAS is to a significant extent limited, because we know that the regionalism is part of the solution, but sovereignty usually lies with the state. So what I would expect is for the interior ministries of these two countries to actually work with their foreign ministries to address the issue. What I am seeing now is they're dealing with the issue at the diplomatic level, which is fine because it involves two countries. But the issue has to do with the interior politics of these very countries. And that is where I believe the conversations will start. So ECOWAS can just go there and advise and talk to Ghana's foreign ministry or the Ghanaian government. But if, corresponding actions are not taken at the lower sections of society, lower segments of society, ECOWAS will come and leave, and the problem will come up again.
Isaac?
Of ECOWAS is to create a borderless, sub-region. But if you look at what has happened, especially on the security side of things, Ghana is actually sandwiched between 3 countries that are having serious democratic issues and conflict. So on top of Ghana is Burkina Faso, that is being ruled by a military government. Okay. And you have tensions of that across the northern borders, like a town like Boko, which has since 1975 not being stable in terms of security. On the western side, you have Ivory Coast, and we all know what is going on in Ivory Coast, where main opposition leaders have actually been barred from contesting in the election, and an 80-year-old president saying he will run again. Come to Togo, similar situations. And so you can't have an ECOWAS where you have insecurity across board, and you have countries that are supposed to be championing some of these, regional blocs, all being sandwiched by insecurity. So, for instance, I get a bit worried when you talk about the relations between Ghana and Nigeria, and just like that was said, if you look at the current situation, it makes ECOWAS it puts ECOWAS in a tight corner where you have tribal issues moving from their original regions into other parts of ECOWAS, where in the case of Nigeria, for instance, the spread of fake news is simply because of maybe a tribal tension going on in Nigeria. If you listen to the leader or the traditional leader of the Igbos here in Nigeria, he said that video that was shared where there was that intention to establish an Igbo state in Ghana was somewhere way back in 2013. The question is, why is this resurfacing now? It's because of what is going on in Nigeria between possibly the Igbos and other people. So you have other conflicts in original regions having been, migrating to other parts of ECOWAS, creating some proxy conflict. And that becomes a bit of a problem for ECOWAS, putting the economic community in a tight corner. Already we know that three big economies, which are supposed to be part of ECOWAS, are no longer there. Talk about Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. So you can see the power of ECOWAS dwindling almost every day. And some of these insecurities and reports actually makes it very difficult for it to step in when they are needed the most.
Right. Ajay, I want to ask you about something Dr. Mohammed here stated regarding the influence that Nigeria has on Ghana, whether it's economic or just by perception itself. Now, he also noted that this is from this preference from Ghanaians is toward a specific ethnic group, as the Igbos, like you have said. But how much exactly do the Igbo population in Ghana actually contribute to the economy there? Let's talk about entertainment, nightlife. Let's talk about the food industry and others.
If we can quantify this, and in terms of the informal side of trade, bilateral trade between Ghana and Nigeria, it's almost close about $700 million. And the Igbos contribute a significant component, especially if you look at the main economic hubs like Seko and other parts of the country where, economic activities are actually buzzing. You see Igbo traders in the phone business, in entertainment, in so many, aspects of the economy. And I was looking at the Ghana Statistical Service mapping of foreigners in Ghana, and you could see that Nigerians aren't just concentrated in the capital. Now they've actually spread across the board, and the Igbos are a significant component of that. So you go to Kumasi, you go to the northern part of Ghana, you go to the central part, western part, almost everywhere you find Nigerians doing massive work to support the Ghanaian economy. And so if you quantify this, I think the simple figure has to be that close to about $700 million in terms of bilateral trade. And in looking at it in the informal side, you have the Igbos playing a significant component of that. Already in Nigeria, the Igbos are known for trade. And so definitely when they come to Ghana, what they contribute significantly towards is the informal side. But the big question has to do with the retail laws of Ghana and how that is posing a big threat, and then tension between the Ghanaian trader and then also the Nigerian trader. And so I think that's what is the main situation. But in terms of contribution, I think that the Igbo community actually contributes a lot to the Ghanaian economy.
Thank you very much, Ajay. Now, Dr. Mohammed, you noted something. You said that this is being blown out of proportion, but we all know that this has happened from before. At first, it was Nigeria must go, but people don't know that in the 60s, Nigerians were actually expelled from Ghana. Then in 1983, Nigeria expelled Ghanaians. Now, you say these are only just murmurs and might be taken out of proportion, but don't you think that these are just simply the start of what might eventually become something big? As has been noted by Mr. Ajay here, you can see the influence Nigerians have on the Ghanaian population, the commerce and all of that. Now, do you think that the worries are that Ghanaians are scared that Nigerians might be putting a footprint into their culture, their tradition, their what in the future might become Nigerians saying that they have a right of stay where they might have established an Igbo kingdom? Do you think these are the concerns of Ghanaians?
Yes, when I say they are being blown out of proportion, it is not in any way to suggest that these are not significant concerns that should warrant our attention. It's definitely a very important issue, and we should take note of it. But I said that within the context of Ghana-Nigeria relations, I don't see a foreseeable future where Nigerians are asked to leave Ghana. I may be wrong, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. And I think 1969 Aliens Compliance Order and 1983, the Ghana must go in Nigeria. Or, I think the continent, the sub-region has moved on away from that. Ghana and Nigeria have actually developed very robust relations that sufficiently places the countries above these issues of history. That history still remains in the background, but I don't think that they are likely to come back to bite in the way that we are perhaps assuming as we speak. Now, in terms of the grievances of Ghanaians, we should usually broaden the conversation to include, governance itself. Ajay mentioned the case of, tribal politics in Nigeria. That tells you that the source of these grievances are not only within the host country; they also come from the original countries as well. Similarly, what is making Ghanaians frustrated about the existence of Nigerians? It is important to mention that the Ghana Investment Promotion Act, for example, prevents Nigerians or foreigners from doing certain things, including petty trading. And this is the area where you find a lot of Nigerians, plying their trade. So there is an illegality there, but that is not an issue. Ghanaians feel that the opportunities are available to them are being taken over by Nigeria. So I think for me, it is a question of economics to begin with, and with the Igbo Kingdom debate, questionable, but it then brings in the question of sovereignty. It then brings in a little bit of politics into the situation, and that is, for me, the trigger. As for the grievances, they will always be there. But as to what you do to make sure that you flip open the lid, that is one of those grievances. This is what this Igbo Kingdom argument actually did. So I think the issue should be resolved, taking into consideration a broad array of other factors, traveling from politics, economics, and even cultural relations. But it goes to suggest that if you have all these connections between Ghana and Nigeria, then it also shows that the relationship between both countries are quite strong, because it is only when you have close relations that you begin to see friction. Right. All right. So for me, I think that Ghanaians have a grievance. We should not trivialize it. But there are so many things that the Igbo community in Ghana or the Nigerian community in Ghana can also do to become law-abiding Nigerians in Ghana. And I think that is where the issue is. And if this is resolved, Ghanaians wouldn't have any reason to really be concerned.
Right. Let me, first of all, let's just bring in our third guest, and that's Obed Uwosu Adai. He's the convener of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform, and he joins us live. Mr. Uwosu Adai, it's good to have you join us. Now, before I bring you into this conversation, I want to pick up on something Mohammed has said, which is that, and also that Isaac has said, right, which is on the economic side of things, and that, as much as Nigeria and Ghana, have strong ties, there's also a note that needs to be talked about when it comes to the economic part of it, right? But you also made mention, Isaac, about how ECOWAS is weakened, given that three of its also big economies have sort of removed themselves from the body, have now joined the junta. And so at this point, it begs to ask the question about the tensions that we're seeing, right? Allegations, speculation, misconceptions. My theory is this. We've also seen the same happen in South Africa and Nigeria in terms of tensions. Is there something bigger at play here, or is this just social cultural issues? Isaac.
Isaac, that was directed at you.
Isaac, can you hear me?
He might be frozen. Maybe we should move on.
Mohammed, you can go ahead and take it. Mohammed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Did you get the question?
Yeah, as to whether there is something bigger than this.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. We should again look at the issue in totality. We cannot look at what is happening in Ghana without talking about the recent surge in what may be called negative nationalism. I think it is happening across the world, and I think there is a certain upsurge in a desire to establish sovereignty among nationals. And for me, that is what I see. That's what I see. But the bigger thing that we should look at is the issue of governance.
Governance, huh?
Because the only reason why Ghanaians will move out of their country, or Nigerians will move out of their country, is in search of better opportunities. So if those opportunities are present at home, we're not saying that people will not travel to other countries. They will, but a large chunk of them will stay at home. I have heard some prominent Nigerians suggesting that the Igbo should just come home. They should just leave Ghana and come back home and then develop their economy. So it's not as simple as that. But I think there is that broader picture of the surge in nationalism across the world. And this is the same factor that is driving what is happening in the Sahel. There is this sense, this country is for us, okay? So leave it for us. That sense is very, very popular now. And they get inflamed, by the underlying grievances of crime, insecurity, economic grievances, and they allow these bigger concerns to just grab hold of the whole situation and then blow it out of proportion. So yes, there's a bigger picture, and that is why the solution shouldn't have to focus only on the national level or the regional level. We should do so taking cognizance of the fact that we are in an era where there is this negative nationalism going on, and the moment nationals feel like their opportunities are being lost to quote-unquote foreigners, then there's a reason for them in their thinking to actually rebel against the system that is welcoming foreigners at their expense.
Okay. Well, Mr. Obed, welcome once again. I want to direct this one to you. You came in late, but I'm sure that you have caught up with the conversation. Let's talk about perception and how civil organizations play in here. What kind of perception do Ghanaians actually have of Nigerians? Is it one that they actually have experience? For instance, have they seen Nigerians go against the law, or are they gathering these perceptions from off of the media, social media, for instance, and maybe our own Nollywood? We do agree that our Nollywood does not portray us well. We sometimes glorify, for the sake of, entertainment, other aspects of Nigerian culture that maybe are just happening here in the bits, but we make it seem like, that's what we are about. So do you think that these perceptions, these wrong perceptions, are responsible for the way Ghanaians have taken the matter currently and are asking for the new hashtag, Nigerians must go? Mr. Obed.
Well, thank you very much, and my apologies for being late. Maybe before I tackle the issue, let me give a caveat. My distant cousin is married to a Nigerian, so I genuinely have a very soft spot for Nigerians. So
you're welcome.
I need to put that down first. Having said that, I think you are spot on. Unfortunately, most Ghanaians, and especially the youth, consume a lot of information from social media, and social media is becoming an avenue that influences movements. Not too long ago, most of the protests that happened in Ghana were all instigated through social media. And so yes, social media is a very, very powerful tool that is contributing to this current surge in these protests and negative sentiments. But I must also say that in recent years, there have been a lot of high-profile cases that has happened in Ghana that involved Nigerians. Notably, in Takoradi, there were some missing ladies which were later found to have been murdered by some Nigerians. Not too long ago, there were robbery cases that were also attributed to Nigerians in Ghana. So yes, all these happenings and all these media reportage has a way of instigating or influencing the thinking of even well-meaning Ghanaians like even myself to come to a position that that has that negative kind of behavior towards Nigerians. But generally, I would say that in as much as the social media, Nollywood, and other media platforms are feeding into this new surge in anti-Nigerian protests, there are also instances where some, just as Dr. Suleiman said, there are genuine issues that are happening that unfortunately the proper communication channels do not clarify. So we are left with speculation that emanate from social media. So yes, unfortunately, social media, unfortunately, Nollywood culture, pop culture, and other things are influencing some of the thinkings, especially among the youth of Ghana. And that could be one of the avenues that has brought about this. But once again, let me put this on record that unfortunately, some of these issues have been, there have been a lot of reports and a lot of evidence that points to the fact that some of them might be speculative, but there are indeed some evidence to show that some happenings also involve our friends, our Nigerian friends in Ghana. And but let's not mix the point. The point really is, if you ask me, I'm a Kumasi boy. I stayed in the Ashanti region. I stayed close to the hub of mechanical things in Ghana, Swami. And you realize that in most of those areas, the spaces are occupied by Nigerians that are trading in those mechanical issues and things. And that, for me, is where most of these issues are emanating from. Yes, social media is playing a role, but there are also some very, very tangible evidence to point to the fact that some of the are also indeed true.
Obed, hopefully you bear with me, right? Because if I were to also look at Hollywood as well and see what is portrayed on there, I would refer to Americans as, you know, I don't have the better adjective to describe them. But if I were to look at the crime that they portray, the guns that they sling, I would also say America is a gunslinging, you know, country. You know, if I was to look at the Wild Wild West movie or those that were portrayed during the slave era, I would say they are, you know, they are animalistic and barbaric, right? So if we are taking information from entertainment and using that to inform our realities, it begs to ask the question about what the role of civil societies are going to play in trying to separate fiction from facts, you know, for the fact that, and also crime is crime. Let's just put it there. Should a nationality make the crime more severe? Because you just reeled out, you know, cases where women were killed. You know, a crime is a crime. It doesn't mean that the person who committed it made it more severe. So what is civil societies are doing? What do you think civil societies ought to do, you know, to sort of help to separate that leaning of getting your ideologies from fiction and entertainment as opposed to fact and humanity?
Well, I mean, you've rightly contextualized it, and I think that is where the problem is. That is where civil society, like myself and our groups, have a role to play to reorient and to re-educate and re-inform. And I like the heading of this conversation: misinformation. There are a lot of misinformation out there. We need to begin to communicate the right information to our audiences through social media, through conventional media platforms like yours and others that are in this space, because unfortunately, the anti-Nigeria and negative social media reportage is overshadowing the proper or the right thing that are happening. And negative things sell. Negative things, it catches up like fire. And so, yes, you are right. There is a role for us, civil society, to play in this conversation. We need to go to the radio stations. We need to begin to inform our audiences and our constituents of some of this negative reportage and contextualize them. But once again, let's not mix the issues. The truth still remains that even though there are a lot of negative reportage which are not true, some of the things that are demonstrated or exhibited in Nollywood and in the movies, for example, the Yahoo Boys and all that, has caught up in reality. You come to Ghana, you go to Kaswa, a very popular area in the central region, and it has become a hub of the Yahoo Boys. And I mean, I'm a youthful Ghanaian. I've been around for a couple of years, and I didn't used to hear them. But from the Nollywood, it became part of the pop culture, and it has become part and parcel of the life of some of the youth. So yes, I do agree with you that you cannot always associate what is happening in Nollywood to reality, but some of them find their ways into the pop culture of the people, and unfortunately, most of it have been negative, and that is what is bringing about these negative sentiments. But you are right, civil society needs to play a role and to reorient, re-inform, and re-educate the population about the good things that our Nigerian brothers are doing here, and to try and minimize those negative social media things. Now, unfortunately, the social media negative things, it's so difficult to combat them, and we need a holistic government approach, inter-country government approach to deal with this. Leaving it alone with the social, with the civil society, that we might be able to play a role, but comprehensively we might not be able to address the whole issue.
All right. Thank you very much, Obed. Again, let me come back to you now. Dr. Mohammed, I'm saving my very important question for last, and it will be for you. But Ajay, now, Dr. Mohammed noted something initially. He said something about regulation when it comes to trade in Ghana, and the fact that even as a Nigerian, you're not supposed to engage in petty trade. Now, these regulations are not being, well, kept up with. Do you think that this might also be an issue? Because it would seem that the Nigerian population is taking over. They're encroaching on people's businesses, because that's what Nigerians do. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, on behalf of 200 million of us,
what are you doing?
we do this. But what can be done in terms of policy and regulation to bring things back to normal? Ajay.
Lines, right? And those fault lines are what is actually fueling this. So you come to Ghana, for instance, there are structural issues, and the structural issues makes it difficult for you to enforce certain laws. So the person who is supposed to enforce the law is, on the other hand, ready to take bribe. And so it makes it difficult for even foreigners, not just Nigerians. If you look at what is going on in mining, illegal mining in parts of the country where, unfortunately, Chinese nationals have actually flooded these areas, it's because they are chiefs and they are citizens who are ready to take bribes and hand over lands. So it's the same thing in the trade space, where the structural issues that exist that makes it difficult for laws to be enforced, makes it easy for some foreigners, and in this case, we're talking about Nigerians, to actually go into the space and do what is illegal. And so you have instances where people have been arrested for flouting some of the trade rules, and you have policemen who will possibly be bribed in a certain way to actually let them go. And so remember that, Nigerians come here, they belong to different communities. And so as and when they find some of these opportunities to actually bribe law enforcers and all of that, it makes it difficult to enforce some of these laws. And these things trigger the fault lines that exist. Already, there are fault lines of Ghana must go. And so if Ghanaians see that, well, our brothers who were sacked from Nigeria some years ago for flouting certain trade rules are also doing the same thing now, those fault lines makes it easy for some of these things to thrive at the moment, although on the face term, they may not be that significant. But I think that the fault lines and structural issues that makes it for law enforcers to take bribes and all of that makes it very easy for certain nationals to take advantage of the system.
Wow. Take advantage indeed. Let me come to you, Dr. Mohammed Suleiman. You are the founding director of the Center for Alternative Politics and Security in West Africa. Security is what we're looking at this time. For the two nations, how would you advise in terms of early intervention so we don't see a reprisal of Nigeria must go, Ghana must go happening again in 2025?
Thank you very much. There is a very important point that I needed to clarify.
Please go ahead.
Regarding the population of Nigeria. I think this is important. That is why I am talking about it even before going to your question. You know, Nigeria's population is over 50% that of West Africa. And it is about 15% that of the African continent. So I've always said that the only time I would wonder, I would be concerned about issues of crime and other things in Ghana and say that we should blame them on Nigerians or Igbos, will be when you catch 10 criminals, you find 7 of them being Nigerian. Because when you take West Africans, it is very likely that 5 of them will be Nigerian.
You're right.
I think in this instance, Nigerians are becoming victims of their own destiny.
Of their own numbers.
We need to take that into consideration when we are doing this analysis. It's the same for Nigerians in South Africa. It's the same for Nigerians everywhere, because this is one of the most populous countries in the world. So naturally, you find more Nigerians in other countries than other African countries. So that is a very good point to make. So let me
very
leave it there.
insightful one.
We
yes.
take this into consideration, and it will make us understand the issues better.
Very
now, in terms of alternative solutions and the way forward to prevent reprisal attacks, I think I'll go back to the point about engaging the interior ministers of these countries. I don't know, Ajay might correct me, if when Ambassador Bianca Ojukwu went to Ghana, if she met Muntaka, for example, who is the Minister of Interior for Ghana.
Yes, they both met as well as John Mahama.
Really?
Yes.
Perfect. So these sort of conversations are extremely important, because then you will be able to see exactly what is happening on the ground. So I expect things like this to happen, and the Nigerian counterparts should also be dealt with. For example, imagine bringing the leader of the Ghanaian community in Nigeria to Ghana, for example, and taking the leader of the Nigerian community in Ghana to Nigeria to talk to Ghanaians in Nigeria, and for the Ghanaian in Nigeria to come to Ghana and talk to Ghanaians in Ghana about the way they treat Nigerians. I think these bilateral people-to-people relations are extremely important.
Yes.
Because it is the fear of the unknown.
Yes,
I believe
indeed.
it is the fear of the unknown.
Dr.
People
Mohammed.
understand, and it allows ignorance to take over.
Dr. Mohammed, Mr. Obed Owusu, and of course Ajay, we want to say thank you very much for giving us such a robust conversation on this matter. As you can see, both of us here, Nigerians, all of you there, Ghanaians, but there's one very important question that we have to ask. Dr. Mohammed, you've noted perception, you've noted statistics, you've noted commerce, economy, and how much we exchange between ourselves, even if we're two nations apart. It seems like a salad of sorts that's causing all of these issues, or maybe let's call it a jollof of sort. So my
Please
final and very important question, Dr. Mohammed, please, is which is better, Nigerian or Ghanaian jollof? Dr. Mohammed?
This is interesting.
I know.
I was talking to one of your colleagues a few days ago, and I was chatting with her, and I was telling her that if you ask me this question in secret, my answer will be different. But if you ask me in public, I'll give you a different answer.
Let's hear both.
Let's hear the secret one.
Ask me in public, I would say Ghana Jollof is #1. Thank you.
We understand, then we're good. Thank you very much. We'll take it. Mr. Obed and Ajay, I'm sure that you guys agree. We're not going to ask you. Let's just leave it so. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been an exciting conversation. We've got more to talk about here inside of Breakfast Extra, so let's let you go.